If you're of a nervous disposition and don't like offensive language, perhaps the best time to go now. Some of you have seen me operate before. But let me just say welcome to the three groups. Let me get this right. We've got my friends from ITTE. Thank you very much for inviting me. We've got friends from, how do we say it?
Mobilising and Transforming Teacher Education Pedagogies Project. We're looking for a suitable acronym.
You tell you that's 11 plus, can't you? Where are they? Where are the MVP? Thank you for coming. And then we've got the FE, my FE friends. Where are my FE friends? Great to see you. Nice, thanks for coming. How many of you seen me perform before? Oh shit. Laugh at the jokes. Anyway, just a couple of corrections. What it should have said in the billing is that I am the ex-chair of the Teacher Schools National Technology Advisory Board. Ex for the simple reason that we ran it for 12 or 15 months with funding from the DFE till all the recommendations and advice we'd given were against what they thought should happen, so they stopped the funding. And the second thing, as Miles knows only too well, is I was chair of the DFE expert panel that created a lot of resources, and there are some colleagues here. Where's Helen? She was around, and through other people. Moira Savage, is she still around? She's not here, but she and a few others contributed a lot. Chris contributed to that, and they shut that down as well for the simple reason that what I was saying and what some other of my friends were saying on public platforms didn't necessarily align with the message that Michael Gove and Dominic Cummins and the then Minister Liz Truss wanted to come out about the computing curriculum. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about the war, so we'll let that go. So, Sarah, thank you very much for the invite. I'm very grateful. I think it's probably 4 years since I did the last ITTE conference. Helen, did you know that? Bedford. Yeah, it's about 4 years ago. And yeah, I spoke there, and I spoke about the new computing and the programme. We were right in the middle of it, weren't we? I mean, why we wasted all that time, John, I don't know, because of course Nick Gibb and Dominic Cummins and Bill Mitchell and Simon Peyton-Jones went and rewrote what they wanted to write in the first place. But anyway, I'm not going to mention the war. Don't talk about the war. But there's an awful lot happened since then, 4 years on since the reform of the National Curriculum Computing. I know you're heavily involved in that. I mean, first of all, the number of teachers going into the teacher community has fallen drastically. So that's a winner, wasn't it? Yeah. Secondly, only yesterday or day before the BBC published a big story. And if you want to follow up for the real detail, go on my Twitter feed and look at the University of Stirling research report from Ben Williamson, which gives a chapter and verse of what really happens. And of course, predicted next year, the number of pupils sitting for GCSE, A-level, or other qualifications in a computing or IT related will fall. That's the bad news. The good news, Miles Berry's air miles have shot up. I told you I was going to tell you. Anyway, I promised I won't talk about the war, but look at that. Anyway, the last time I was in Hull, I came to see my friend who lived here, and he was a lovely lad. I was teacher training with him, and he was a Hull Kingston Rovers fan, and he would have been a brilliant teacher, but he failed his exams. And the reason he failed his exams is when he got to the final written exam on education theory. This is going back a long time, John, way before your time, 1970s. He came from Hull, he was proud of Hull, and the question on the exam paper on education theory was, can you describe the role Pestalozzi had in the development of children's play? And he wrote, I don't know anything about the role Pestalozzi played in children's play. William Wilberforce was born in Hull in 1882 and introduced and abolished slavery. And he went on to write for an hour and a half about William Wilberforce and how he had helped children's play. Sadly, something called assessment criteria kicked in and he failed. But the second, talking about exam papers, some of you might know I was chief examiner for City and Guilds of the London Institute for about 12 years for a subject. I was a PE teacher and the subject was leisure and recreation studies when I went into FE. I went from schools into FE. City and Guilds, we piloted something, and then about 8 years later there were 17,000 entries. And I remember, you know, in my early 30s sitting up till 3 o'clock in the morning because they had 3 kids and mortgage and everything like that. I got 200 quid for a set in the paper and 45 pence a script for marking it. And there was this level 3 question, and the question was, briefly describe the role Aristotle, Descartes, Rousseau and Spinoza played in the development of today's leisure industries. Briefly. And this kid had written, Descartes and Spinoza, Rousseau and what the other one was, played an enormous part when they all turned up to play badminton one day and found that the court had been booked. So, here we go. Those of you who heard me speak before know that there's an underpinning thesis to what I'm going to say. And I'd just like to rehearse that with you. Some of you have heard this before. This is a picture of Salford at the turn of the century, when our education system was still in its design stage. And predominantly, and this is my whole thesis and the basis of my presentation, as I said to Andy on Twitter yesterday, this is the same song, but I've just got 1 or 2 different notes going along. The song is this, that I think we've got a real challenge. I'm not going to talk about computing or computing qualification. This is about the use of technology for teaching and learning. And the challenge that we've got is this. The design principles that underpin our teaching, learning and assessment systems, right the way through from primary through to higher education, say no more, are predicated on the design principles that were dominant at that time, i.e. the industries at that time were shipbuilding, yes, textiles, engineering, manufacturing. And the thinking behind the design principles of our education and training system, which were there to reflect that time, in my view, based on Taylorism and mechanisation and production, are now no longer fit for purpose in a digital age. How can I best describe where I think we are now? And I think it's the best way. Who's seen me do this before? Good. Okay, you have. Who's online? Who's looking online? Are you on Facebook or Twitter? Or, yeah? Okay. No. Could you Google for me? Horse manure crisis, 1900-ish. Okay? Because I think this for me is a visual representation of where we are at the moment in terms of the use of technology for teaching and learning. Give me a shout when you've got it and you Google it, because it must be right. It's on Google, isn't it? Okay? And at the turn of the century, all major cities, because of my previous point about this, were due to have massive growth in population. London, Birmingham, Manchester, Hull, massive growth because people were coming in from the fields and from agriculture and they were going to work in the factories. And the burghers of every city and the mayor and all this, and they got around and said, well, hang on a minute here, if we're going to have all these people who are going to be ploughing into the city in between 7 o'clock and 8:30 in the morning and then going home in between 5 and 5:30 at night, roughly, the mode of transport at the time was horse and carriage. Have you found it yet? Do you have to just shout out what it is, what it says?
Basically because they were using horses and
Can you
carriages.
hear?
No.
Just shout it out.
Basically because they were using horses and carriages for transportation, they ended up having far too much manure in the streets.
And?
Right?
Yeah, that's basically, it's true though, isn't it? What does it say?
It was a bit of a conundrum because they couldn't do away with the horses because then they wouldn't have transport.
Right, so what they worked out was with the increase in the number of horses because of the number of people, down the centre of Tottenham Court Road or Cottingham Road or wherever, Deansgate in Manchester, by 8:30 in the morning, it will be this high in horse shit. Okay? And nobody will be able to get through, nobody be able, the other horses wouldn't be able to get it. So what they did, they said, well, this is going to be a problem because we need people to get to the factories because they need to get to work to be able to produce wealth. You know where I'm going here? Right, what are we going to do? Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. At every junction, we'll get a skip or a hopper, yeah? And then we'll recruit 10,000 horse shit shovelers, for my FE friends, NVQ level 1, to shovel the shit from there into the hopper. You see, I think I'm making this up, don't you? But it's absolutely true. And they recruited them all, put them on the training, got the hoppers made, got the big shovels, everybody's ready to go, and guess who comes round the corner? Henry Ford. Now, why am I talking to you about horse shit? Because I think this is a metaphor for exactly where we are at the moment. Because if what we're in danger of doing is taking the power and the potential of the motor car, i.e. what John's on now. Just as a matter of interest, I first started teaching with computers in FE, Motor Vehicle 5, on a Friday afternoon, general studies, yes? Any of you taught that? You see why I have no hair. And the only reason that I could get into the computer suite was the computer and business department were all members of the Caravan Club and they'd all pissed off to Anglesey. So the computer suites were empty. So me and MV5, Pong, General and Communication Studies, Pong on a Friday afternoon, saved my life. Those same mechanics, well it's the grandsons now, those same mechanics, now carry around in their pockets more processing speed, more memory, a camera, and more importantly, constant online connection to the world of knowledge. And my fear is, what we're trying to do, we're trying to force the motor car up the horse's backside. In other words, we're taking our existing system of teaching, learning and assessment. Don't get me going on assessment. My son Kieran graduated from Leicester University. He's got Asperger's. You might come across him a bit later. Went to Leicester University. They were anybody here from Leicester University? They were fantastic. The support team, special, yeah, absolutely fantastic. 3 years he was at Leicester. I think most of the time, Miles, he wasn't an Apple Mac, it was Toshiba that I got him some Toshiba laptops and tablets and stuff like that. And because he was a disabled student allowance, he had the thank you very much, he had the voice recording stuff and the organising software and everything like that. For 3 years, he never touched a pen.